point out some dolphins. We saw them on the way up. Dolphins are very intelligent, and for some reason they get bored and they just like to swim next to boats. I guess they love the attention because everybody always stops what they're doing and take photos and look at them. So you should scan the water. You may see some dolphins over here. Just in case you missed it, there was a bar in front of that the mall over there. I always like to point out that bar because it's never hard to find a bar here in Fort Lauderdale. Excuse me, I mean Fort Lauderdale. That's actually a real nickname we gained from Prohibition. It's kind of hard to keep the run out of here. We were so close to the Caribbean islands. To your left, that's the Bonnet House. It's behind those red mangrove trees. Bonnet House is an attraction here in Fort Lauderdale. Best friend. I'm going to try to point out some houses coming up to your right. Coming up, you're going to see some orange lawn chairs. This home is the owner of C-SPAN. That's your satellite television. He gets 6 cents for every satellite TV on to this day. Every single month. This home right here to your right. So it's safe to say those pennies add up because he bought the home with it. Not sure if he'll be able to pay the taxes though, because mostly everyone's streaming these days. On your left here, this is an anchorage here in Fort Lauderdale. You're allowed to anchor here for free for 30 days. But let's say you're on day 29, you pick up your anchor, you drift a little, you anchor back down, you get an additional 30 day beach walk you can find here. Local shops, bars, restaurants, hotels. Would anyone like to get off here at stop 7? Stop 7, stop 7. Nobody. Perfect. So Captain Rob is still going to dock here, so I'd like to remind everyone just to please stay seated upstairs if you're already up here. If you're downstairs, please stay inside the cabin. Coming up on your left, you're going to see the yacht Patriot. Patriot is a racing yacht. This yacht won a race in 2018. The Rolex Sydney Harbor race. Owned by Mr. Jason Close. That's his name. Mr. Jason Close, that's exactly what he does. He races this yacht here. Guys, stop number 7. Of course, I'd like to thank you all for riding in the 2028 Summer Olympics. That's cliff diving. Now to dive off that platform, you got to be certified because it's considered fatal. So that drop can't kill you. You're diving into a 20-foot deep pool and it takes about 5 seconds to hit the water. You can reach speeds of 50 miles an hour. Cliff dive. Jim Moran. Mr. Jim Moran had a crazy idea to bring Japanese cars to the U.S. That's why we have Lexus and Toyota here. His family thought he was crazy. It turned out to be a multi-billion-dollar business. He owned 7 of those spaceships in his lifetime. Freedom is another racing yacht. That won a race in the 1980s, beat Australia. Imagine, ... That was Ron Howard's boat. He then sold it to a Canadian billionaire. But he owned 2 of these yachts at one point in his life. Imagine, and just imagine, kept one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. One here in Fort Lauderdale, one in California. That's Imagine Studios. Bahia Mar Marina Mega Yacht Marina. It's also a Fed ship dealer, the only Fed ship dealer in the U.S. Remember, those are the Rolls Royce of the water. If you look in the window here, coming up, you'll see those Fed ship banners. That's because we host the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show every single year. We sell a ton of boats during that time. Some of them are Fed ships. That's why this is a Fed ship dealer. That's the largest boat show in the world. And we host it every single year. Coming up to your left, this weird looking boat here. This is known as Seawolf. Seawolf you can charter for $400,000 a week. That's the most expensive charter I've seen on the water so far. They'll just get you on the yacht though, allow you to take photos for Facebook. Can't move once you pay your 30% because you'll need a captain, crew, fuel, and gratuity. Then you can get moving. So that'll roughly cost you about $500,000 to charter that boat. Which is funny because fuel is included. I don't know how much they really pay for fuel because apparently that boat is 80% electric. So that kind of sounds like a scam to me. They're just trying to make their money back on buying the yacht. So if you Google the yacht name and just type in yacht behind it, it'll tell you everything you need to know about the yacht to charter it. That's because once you pay for a yacht, you're constantly paying for a yacht because you got to dock it somewhere. To dock a yacht here, it'll roughly cost you about $4,000 per linear foot, and you pay that every month. So that's why we charter them so we can make our money back. Boat actually stands for something. It's an acronym. Bust out another 1,000. You'll know how true that is once you buy your boat. So we're coming up to stop 6. Anyone for 6? This is Bahia Mar Marina. This is a beach stop as well. Of course, it was right next to 7. Right across the street from the beach, you got your local shops, bars, restaurants, hotels. You got the B Ocean Hotel, that hotel there with the B on the side. That's where the Yankees used to stay during their spring training when it was here in Fort Lauderdale. The B Ocean Hotel actually hosts the Mermaid Show every weekend. Anyone for 6? The Hellers. That's actually what the Hellers do. They mine the tanzanite, that purple gemstone in Africa. The home is for sale because the yacht is for sale. The Hellers purchased this home for one reason and one reason only, to dock the yacht. They have another home in Miami, but the water's a little too shallow for tanzanite down in Key Biscayne. So they bought the home. Right next door to the tanzanite house, that tan-colored home, that once belonged to Mr. Dave Thomas. Do you know Dave? Wendy's, that's correct. That's your founder of Wendy's Hamburgers. Actually, Miss Wendy is the one who owns the house to this day. But her name isn't really Wendy. It's actually Melinda Lou. Her siblings couldn't pronounce Melinda when they were kids, so they nicknamed her Wendy for short. You'll see some construction to your left. They're building this home up. I'm assuming it's almost done. This house has been under construction for 7 years now. Belonged to Mr. Rick Hendricks of Hendrick Motorsports, your NASCAR driver. Up on your right, belonged to Mr. Al Capone, still owned by the family. Now his great-grandson is the one who lived in it. That home has been passed down generation to generation. Coming up, stop number 4, that's your Hilton Marina. That's your transfer to Hollywood. Anyone looking to go to Hollywood? Perfect. up at this old liquor bar. Thursday head on downstairs. There is a bathroom on the boat. On the boat we call the bathroom men. There's only one man, so we're going to go over and find out today. There's still only one man. Gentlemen, as we continue our trip downtown, our next stop will be stop number 1 at the Los Olas Riverwalk. We're looking to go to stop number 2. We'll catch that on the way back up. So if you're on the Los Olas, you're not marked by stop number 2, I would probably get off at 1. We'll know stuff there. So if you've been on the boat for very long, you've noticed that there are no celebrity homes here in Fort Lauderdale. They've all been torn down because rich people don't want to live in these houses. This is the only celebrity house you will see on this tour, right here to the right. It's a very small white concrete block house with a flat roof. So you can see how small it is. That's why rich people don't want to live in that house. That's currently lived in by the grandson of Rocky Marciano, which is why it hasn't been torn down yet. He had said that a sale is probably imminent because he's been offered a ton of money. When that property changes hands, they'll tear that down and build a mansion in its place. Next door to that Spanish-style house. At one point in time, that was lived in by Tiger Woods until he made the unfortunate decision to cheat on his beautiful supermodel wife with a Perkins waitress. He didn't even blame that on the alcohol. Now that's her house. Construction site to the right, that used to be where the Seagrams brothers lived. They made their money running alcohol to Florida from the Caribbean during Prohibition. When Prohibition ended, they moved their distillery to Canada, but like most Canadians here in Florida, they didn't want to pay that 45% income tax. So they lived right here in Florida where we have no income tax. That house got torn down about a year and change ago. The flagpole's all that remains now. Mr. Bruce Paddock is the CEO of Paddock Laboratories. He made his money reverse engineering name brand drugs and selling them as generics. You may notice the alternating color bands. Each one of those is a layer of concrete that had to be poured and cured before the next layer could be built. That house is all solid poured concrete. It took 5 years to build. It could withstand a Category 5 hurricane. That is a $51 million house.
notice after this canal, up until about 2 weeks ago, that was the CEO of Cole's house. I say up until about 2 weeks ago because he recently got fired. So you'll notice a vacant lot next to that house. There used to be a house on that vacant lot. He wanted a place for his dogs to play, so he bought that lot, paid $1 million over asking price, and then tore the house down. Now it's his own private dog park. So we're currently cruising on the New River. This is called the New River because it was part of Florida's underground aquifer system. They had seismic activity, not from an earthquake or from a tectonic plate shift, opened this up to the surface. So the Indians called it the New River, even though at this point it's thousands of years old. This neighborhood that we're in is called Venice. And that's because of all the canals. These canals are all man-made. The 50s and 70s, this is where the slavery would live. So all the way back to the 20s, you could have got one of these lots for about $500. Fort Lauderdale has more canals than Venice, Italy. So if you haven't been to Florida in a long time or ever, people seem to think that we have a lot of trailers here in Florida. That's not really the case. Hurricanes get rid of a lot of them, and the land is just too valuable for a trailer, so most of them have been long gone. This lot right here was the last trailer in Fort Lauderdale. At one point in time, this was all trailer park. He was the last holdout, but he ended up getting about $10.5 million for that lot. I'm assuming he doesn't live in a trailer anymore. Or if he does, he's got a lot of land. Coming up on the right, you're going to see this lot with this little thatch roof thing over the table and the wooden statues. That is a $20 million garden. A woman whose house we'll go by in a little bit wanted a place for her grandkids to play, and she didn't have a lot of property. So she paid $20 million for this house and this lot, tore the house down, kept the in-ground pool. Now that is her grandkids' personal park. When you notice vacant lots on the intercoastal, all of these lots were developed. But because rich people don't like to live in used houses, when people want to sell their property, they will go ahead and tear the house down because a vacant lot sells faster here in Fort Lauderdale and sells for more money. It's the opposite of most places. On the left, this is the only property that changed hands that wasn't a teardown. This compound of 5 houses used to be owned by Mr. Wayne Huizenga. Mr. Huizenga formed 3 Fortune 500 companies. He formed Waste Management. He formed Blockbuster, for those of you old enough to remember Blockbuster. And then he formed AutoNation. He also owned the Florida Marlins, Florida Panthers, Miami Dolphins. Each one of these houses is a different continent inside. They're all connected by a breezeway. This 3-story tower actually has a 6-person hot tub in the middle. All that gold inlay is real gold. So he didn't own all these houses initially. I think he just owned this one on the river. And he used to have a helicopter that he would land here, and when his neighbors would complain, he would just buy their house. When he passed away, the family sold it at auction, and surprisingly, they didn't tear it down. That was bought by Chuck West, the CEO of Pet Supermarket. In front of the house, you're going to see the house we call the Harry Potter house. That is because it was built by the folks who did Harry Potter World at Universal Studios. That was a wedding gift from Mr. Wayne Huizenga to his favorite niece. It has pictures that follow you with the eyes. It has hidden rooms that are accessed by bookcases, and you turn the lights and the HVAC on and off as you want. This vacant lot on the right, up until a couple of weeks ago, had the home of the founders of Taco Bell on it. They decided it was too hot here in Florida, so they moved to Phoenix, which is pretty weird. Yeah. They spent $40,000 just resodding this lot so that it would look better in real estate photos. Do I have anybody on the boat for Kansas City, Cleveland, or Minnesota? All right. Take a look at that beautiful Detroit Tigers flag. That is the best team in baseball right now. If you haven't played us yet, you will soon. You just beat us. When? We're still the best team in baseball. Best record in baseball, highest run differential. The Bell family is from Southeast Michigan, so typically they have a Lions flag up there. But that pink house right there, that's the woman that owns the $20 million garden. This lot right here is owned by the church, so the city's been trying to get their hands on it for years because it's untaxed property. They've offered as much as $20 million for it. The church keeps turning it down. Ladies, this one's for you. Just after this canal here, that house was owned by Rob Kardashian back when his daughter still looked Armenian, so it's been a little while. What he spent his OJ money on. So if you take a look, these folks are raising their seawall. That's because everyone has to do that by 2030. That's on the intercoastal. It's mandated by the Army Corps of Engineers. People are putting it off because seawall is about $1,500 a foot, but they can't do any renovations to their property or sell the property until they raise the seawall. So time is coming. This house on the right has an interesting architectural feature. This is one of about 6 on the intercoastal. It's this concrete built-in boat slip, but they're probably going to get rid of that when they have to raise their seawall. It's not very useful today. You'll notice it's pretty narrow and tall for a modern boat, but this house I believe is from the 30s. Went on a cruise ship, stayed in a hotel, or went to a strip club, you paid into that fund. And that money can only be used on tourism activities. So if there's anybody on the boat from Pennsylvania, we recently spent $10 million on that fund. Some of the scenes were filmed in that house. That pool goes right through the middle of the house. It has 1 bedroom and 5 bathrooms, and you can see that Indian head motorcycle he turned into a bar in front of that glass window. Bar in the background in the scene. If you look to the left, you're going to see this seawall with a sign that says Poinciana Drive. If you're on the upper deck, look directly over that sign, you're going to see a long straight street. Back in World War II, that was a Navy airstrip, and a flight of Navy Avengers took off from that airstrip and disappeared into the Bermuda Triangle, never to be seen or heard from again. So you're actually cruising in a corner of the Bermuda Triangle today. Shows, which is kind of weird because we're in the Atlantic Ocean, not the Pacific Ocean. But it's been there since the 50s. It's been around for a long time. So we're getting ready to stop at stop number 6. Stay seated, stay off the bow, off the stairs, away from the pilot house. Once the captain has safely docked the boat, you can make your way downstairs to the bow to disembark. We're now crossing the Middle River. This is the economic dividing line between billionaires and millionaires. So no more super yachts, no more unoccupied mansions. This is going to be all your hard-working, everyday millionaires. These are all going to be owner-occupied properties. We don't know as much about the folks that own these houses as we do the super mansions. But we do know who owns this yellow house here. This is owned by Gino and Rosie. They were Broadway dancers who later owned a chain of dance schools. That's how they made their money. A lot of times they'll be out here, and they wave at us and dance for us. Looks like they're not outside today. That mermaid fountain was a birthday present from Rosie to Gino. She spent about $40,000 on that mermaid fountain.
Where I saw the dolphin last time. I'm gonna see if I see it again.
How Coming up on the right, you're going to see this 3-story blue concrete block apartment building. It's got a funny name, Manhattan Tower. It's called Manhattan Tower because at one point in time that was the tallest building in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale used to have a law called the Palm Tree Law that said that no building could be taller than the tallest palm tree. That was to mitigate hurricane damage. But after 1992's Hurricane Andrew, every building built in the state of Florida has to be able to withstand at least a Category 3 hurricane. So we're a lot taller than we used to be. Coming up on the right, you'll see a plot of land that you might think is undeveloped. That's actually the home of the Bonnet House. The Bonnet House is a 30-acre nature preserve with a house in the middle. That was a wedding gift from Hugh Taylor Birch, who we'll talk about later, to his daughter. His daughter passed away and her husband inherited the property. He remarried the ex-wife of another famous drug dealer, Mr. Eli Lilly. When he passed away, she inherited the property. At 77, she decided that she was done paying taxes, so she went to the county commission and offered to donate that as a county park if she didn't have to pay any more property taxes. County commissioners thought that was a pretty good deal because she was 77. But she ended up living to a week before her 110th birthday. She saved about $30 million in taxes. Now, today, that's a county park, and the house is a museum. Her husband was